Welcome to the DAV podcast. I'm Jonathan Kopinger. For many of us, the PACT Act was a moment of hope, a promise kept for those who served. But what happens when that promise is threatened? When those meant to help instead seek to exploit? We're talking about the rise of predatory claims companies targeting veterans navigating the complexities of their earned benefits. This isn't about policy, it's about protecting those who've sacrificed so much. With me to talk about this today is Jim Marszalek, DAV National Service Director, and Scott Hope, Deputy National Service Director for Training. Thank you both for coming on the podcast today.
Thanks for having us, Jonathan. Appreciate it.
Okay, so first off, what are predatory claims companies?
Predatory claims companies are individuals and companies that are unaccredited, that are out there charging fees for services for helping veterans to prepare claims before the Department of Veterans Affairs.
It's illegal.
It's illegal, Jonathan.
If it's illegal, why are they doing it? How are they doing it?
Right now, there's no criminal penalties. The law doesn't impose criminal penalties for them to do these activities. So it's illegal, but there's no criminal penalties imposed for doing it. So essentially, you can get away with doing it all day long. The VA Office of General Counsel sends out cease and desist letters to these individuals when they become aware of them, but they just continue to act and provide representation, because that's exactly what they're doing. And again, representation requires you to be accredited. So if we talk about accreditation, the DAV, our service officers are accredited service officers, which means we are accredited to practice law before the Department of Veterans Affairs. And we do not charge fee for our services. However, accredited agents and attorneys are able to charge fees for representation after an initial claim has been decided, because the VA claims process is non-adversarial. Once a VA claim has been decided, so basically if a veteran files a claim, their very first claim, we refer to it as an initial claim. VA has to help you develop that claim, provide examinations, help you obtain any medical evidence you need. Then they make a decision. Once that decision's finalized and they make a decision, after that point, if you're unhappy, you're able to hire an attorney or a claims agent, and you can pay them. Now, in order to pay them, you can sign a contract with them, but that contract has to go to the VA, and VA has to essentially approve that contract. Okay, so VA is essentially reviewing it to ensure that it is appropriate. And it's typically 20%, but they're allowed to charge up to 33%. But typically at 20%, VA says okay.
Just like to add to that the Department of Veterans Affairs kind of views, once the non-adversarial process has taken place, the veteran has been assisted through this whole process by the Department of Veterans Affairs to gather evidence, possibly do any medical examinations, and then that decision is rendered. Now, if the veteran is found lacking in some way and they can't grant that benefit, that's when the VA says, okay, there may be some expertise in law that the veteran can engage in this contract with. So that's kind of how they justify that there is a fee basis associated with the true law work provided by an accredited agent or attorney. And again, like Jim says, that is, scrutinized by the fee basis coordinator to make sure veterans are not being taken advantage of. So if for some reason there is a delay in the process, and it turns out that there wasn't a whole lot of work done by that agent or attorney, but the retroactive benefit is somewhat large based on a procedural error, then the veteran will not be harmed because of that. The attorney can actually have that fee reduced by the VA should the VA feel that, hey, there really isn't that kind of work being done on behalf of the veteran. So we're not going to allow that to take place. And a predatory claim practitioner, those individuals are not held to that same standard. They can charge whatever they want, whenever they want, for however long they want. And it's truly egregious to veterans.
So, Scott, it sounds like you said that there is a fee agreement already in place with the VA. Why don't these companies use that?
Well, the fee agreement process is between the veteran and the agent attorney, and it is agreed upon, and it is reviewed by the VA. The reason the predatory claims companies practitioners don't want to enter into the accreditation process with the VA is because they have stated on the record it's just not lucrative enough for them. It's not lucrative enough for them to charge after the fact and maintain the breadth and scope of all the individual they have taking advantage of veterans through this process.
For these companies, it's about making money and not making money for the veteran.
Correct. And these companies are only interested in obtaining funds from the veteran. And remember, these are funds associated with disabilities related to military service. So their literal blood, sweat, and tears and pain and their current earning capacity that is hindered by that is what they're being paid on. These predatory claims practitioners are being paid upon or paid by, and there's nobody reviewing it. And the Department of Veterans Affairs, in their non-adversarial process, haven't even had a chance to look and see if the veteran is entitled to it or not through that non-adversarial process. So it's really it's an egregious type of advantage that they're taking from our brothers and sisters who are only being compensated based on their earned income being reduced by the severity of their conditions associated with service.
I think one of you mentioned it, kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but why would a veteran pay for these services?
I think, the advertisement that these predatory claims companies are doing, their presence on social media, the allure of, hey, we can get you this, we can get you that, I think brings a lot of people to them. They're like, oh, we're going to be able to do this for you. And they're not being told that, hey, there are a ton of free services out there for you. And these companies are out there bad mouthing the free services that are available, saying they can't help you the way that we can. I mean, we have seen pages of documents saying, don't go to these people, and this is why you shouldn't go to them. Come to us. But again, we're providing a free service. And if you simply Google some of these companies and look at the reviews of how many veterans have been taken advantage of and have paid these exorbitant fees, it's terrible to read. And that's simply all you have to do. And if you watch the hearing that Scott talked about, where they talk about that they won't become accredited because it's not lucrative enough, there is a process in place today where they can become accredited and charge fees. So they will be able to do it legally today. They are choosing not to because they will not make enough money. Bottom line, that is the only reason. And that's the disgusting part to
Yeah,
see.
yeah. So, how can people go about identifying these bad predatory claims companies?
I think looking at, if you're asked to sign a contract, that's the first thing you want to look at. You shouldn't have to sign a contract. You shouldn't be paying anyone to file. In DAV's opinion, you shouldn't have to pay anybody to file any claim, period. So if you come to a veteran service organization, it will be free at any part of the process. If you want to hire a claims agent or an attorney and sign an attorney fee agreement and have that submitted to VA, that's your prerogative, and you're able to do that. But at the end of the day, you really want to be careful if you're asked to sign a contract and you're looking at paying 5 times an increase or paying future benefits. You see anything like that, turn around and go the other way.
Wait, so there's something in the contract where you have to like pay if you get an upgrade later?
Oh yeah, we've seen all kinds of different contracts, and Scott has one right now that is just really scary to read. And again, I think you're taking care of some people that are vulnerable at the time when they're really seeking some assistance, going through a difficult process. Because at the end of the day, Jonathan, the VA claims process is difficult.
Mm.
And VA's made it that way, which is frustrating to us and something that we're really trying to advocate change for, that there is no wrong door when you're filing a claim at VA, because today you could file the wrong form and VA turns your way and says, you filed the wrong form, come back and try again. It's really frustrating for us to see that. That's why we're here and that's why we're trying to help veterans. So it is difficult. So it is easy for a veteran to be taken advantage of just because the process can be overwhelming. And then you see this advertising, we'll help you, and it won't, you're not receiving benefits now, so it's not going to be a big deal to you if you have to pay us some of those benefits. Well, come over here, we'll do it for free. DAV is an organization made up of veterans helping veterans. We have all been through the claims process. All of our service officers are wartime disabled veterans, and we're here to help you for free.
And free is always better. How widespread is the problem of predatory claims companies targeting veterans?
Nationwide. This is a nationwide problem.
How often does it happen every day? Is it like something that happens every day? Is it something that they're really going after veterans?
So what I would say on how widespread is it, Jonathan, is these are for-profit organizations and companies. They have a business plan. You can go onto the website of some of these individuals, and you can see that they are aware that there's 30 or so odd $billion associated with veterans benefits paid out. They want to own 2% of that. So essentially, they're looking at a few $100 million per year is what they're seeking to identify, bring into their organization and their company. They have these as part of their business plan, that they need to target a certain number of veterans and have a certain number of individuals come into the fold and utilize them to make that projection a reality. So they have no problem. If they could do it to every single veteran out there, they would do it. That's the reality of the breadth and the scope of this. And what is truly egregious, as Jim has said, is they know it's illegal. It's illegal right now. And they know they're breaking the law, but it's just too tempting, apparently, for them to stop doing it or do it right. So what we can only assume is an organization who does it for free, who brings all veterans of all generation into the fold and assist them through this process, is even if these folks were unfortunately and egregiously brought into the veteran space to do this, truly take advantage of veterans in this way, should it become not lucrative enough, they would just break the rules again, increase their fees, and change it on their own, because that's what they've already done and proven they have no integrity to help veterans. It is a business plan, and it is a business that they are willing to throw on the backs of veterans.
What are some of the most common tactics these companies use to exploit veterans?
Well, Jonathan, the most common tactic is finding someone on social media. What they will do is they'll use predatory or enticing language, such as no payments unless you get an upgrade. They'll use enticing benefits, such as if your spouse is a veteran and not at 100%, you need to contact us. We'll do a free review of your claim. All these things are meant to bring them into the fold. And what you'll see is that there's a lot of different names associated with these predatory claims practitioners, but they're subsidiaries of very large organizations with very deep pockets. And some people ask, well, if they are only being charged if a favorable decision is rendered and they get an increase, then what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is all of this is on the backs of veterans who did get that increase. All of this is their office space, the computers they use, the telephones they call you on are all paid for by veterans who have been taken advantage of.
Yeah.
These companies are actually sending lobbyists. When you ask about how large is the program, these predatory companies are sending lobbyists out to states to testify on behalf of these claims practices that hurt veterans. So veterans are paying for that too.
Are there any specific demographics that are more likely to be targeted?
Well, I would say if I am a predatory claims practitioner, the people that I want to bring in are those closest to exiting service. It doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, where you're from, or what you do. I know that veterans who are just now getting out are going to file more claims. Know their injuries are what their injuries are related directly to that service right now. And if I can get you to file all of those with me, and not allow that non-adversarial process between the veteran and the VA to take place, I can't prove a counterfactual. I don't know what you would have got, but veterans nowadays, the record keeping is very good, and you can link pretty closely as long as that claim is filed closer to the exiting of service. that, hey, yes, this injury or illness did happen in service. This is what you're suffering from. That's what we can get you service connected for. That's what we can recognize as related to military service. So all veterans exiting now, regardless of service branch or creed or color, that's who I would target, because that's who I can get that's where I can make my biggest bang for my buck, because it's going to be way easier to file that claim as veterans who are older, of older generations, whether it's, World War One, two, Spanish Indian, Spanish American, whatever war you're in. The DAV will assist you in the process of filing a claim for service connection. So we don't want to discourage anyone from filing a claim if you've been out for a long time. It's just that proving that link to service becomes a little bit more difficult the farther you get away from service. So as a company looking to take advantage of veterans, that's who I would focus on. And that's who I think they do focus on.
What legislative or regulatory changes are needed to combat these practices?
We need the VA Benefits Act passed, which imposes criminal penalties. That's what needs to be done. Bottom line, these predatory claims companies are lobbying Congress to allow them into the process to charge fees, and to really change the entire process, to charge fees at the initial claims process, to change the entire fee structure on how fees are provided for representation. They want to really change the entire process. And again, we are okay with fees being charged after the initial claims process the way that they are today. There are current laws established today that allow them to charge fees. We are okay with what's in the current rules today. What we're not okay with is these people breaking the law all these years, now coming in, lobbying Congress, changing the law for them. They want to change the law to suit their current business practices, and we are opposed to that. So the current legislation, the Guard VA Benefits Act, reinstates criminal penalties for those that are currently breaking the law. And again, we have to be really careful here and understand what they're trying to accomplish here by allowing them into the process, because a lot of this legislation that they are proposing sort of pardons them to a degree that says for those that weren't following the guidelines prior to this, won't be held accountable if they were doing it prior to this law change. Well, that's absurd. So we've been breaking the law this whole time. We're going to change the law to allow us to charge these exorbitant fees, and you can't do anything about us doing it prior to the law change. Like that's absurd.
Yeah.
And I would also like to add about laws that are being considered. What some of these smart predatory claims practitioners are doing is they are submitting what they would call guardrails or protections for veterans. They are submitting them in a way that they say, look, we would only charge $12,000. We would only charge up to 5 months of retro pay, protecting veterans from egregious claims processes. We would only consider ourselves accredited if you didn't properly accredit it within 90 days, right? So they are taking these items they called guardrails, throwing out the law that currently exists, allowing them, the predatory claims practitioners, into the process under the guise of guardrails protecting veterans. It's egregious. It's misleading, and it is unfair to veterans, because it sounds fair and reasonable to have guardrails to protect veterans when those guardrails are the exact predatory claims practices that should not be allowed and were not allowed in the past, and they shouldn't be allowed today.
And the bottom line is people who take advantage of veterans are the same people out there kicking puppies.
They are.
Not nice people.
Not nice people. Exactly, Jonathan.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Scott, for being with us today. And that wraps up our show. Thank you for tuning in. Just a quick reminder, if you or someone you know is navigating the VA disability claims process and could use some help, remember you're not alone. DAV offers free assistance. You can find your local DAV service officer by heading over to benefitsquestions.org. That's benefits with an S, questions with an S.org. They're there to help you and get your benefits that you've earned. They don't want to take them away, so reach out, get the support you deserve, and we'll catch you next time.